Silence in the kitchen when your child screams an accusation at you, you never listen. Is not defeat, it is precision. Machiavelli in our time would not argue back or soothe with placations, he would sit, set his face in calm, and refuse the immediate bait. He would let the child exhaust themselves on emotion while he measures the damage and the motive. Is this anger, attention-seeking, or a power test? He would treat the outburst as intelligence, not offense. After the storm, he would speak once, with concise consequences and clear expectations, transforming the moment from chaotic energy into a controlled lesson about limits and dignity. The child learns that emotional theatrics do not rearrange reality, only steady. Measured actions do, and the parent reclaims authority without humiliation or hollowness. When a teenager publicly insults a parent on social media, calling them out of touch or exposing a private family moment, Machiavelli wouldn't respond with a legalistic takedown or an emotional reply. He would remove the oxygen. He would privately confront the teenager and, in a single calm exchange, explain the breach of trust, set immediate, enforceable consequences, loss of privileges, required apology, or mediated family time, and follow through. On the public stage he would post nothing, thereby denying the teenager the spectacle they crave. In private he would convert the insult into leverage for rebuilding respect. The message sent to the rest of the family and community is simple: public outrage gets you silence and private accountability gets you repair. In the middle of a family argument where two siblings are screaming blame, Machiavelli's modern move would be to create a pause so long the anger has nowhere to ride. He would interrupt nothing with counsel, but he would introduce structure, a strictly timed conversation with speaking turns and one moderator. He would let the loud one speak first, then wait double the time while maintaining an unreadable face, only to respond with one sentence that reframes the conflict into a concrete request for behavior change. By refusing to trade insult for insult and by replacing heat with rules, he flips the power. The hot-headed sibling is exposed as reactive and undisciplined, and the moderator gains moral authority not through anger but through procedural control. When parents contend over finances and one partner sneers at the other's bad choices, Machiavelli would treat the sneer as a political gambit. He would not retaliate with accusations or long explanations. He would quietly assemble facts, present a budget with exact numbers, and offer a corrective plan that binds both parties to measurable steps. The insulter's attempt to shame is neutralized because the debate shifts from morality to measurable outcomes, and the plan becomes the mechanism for future judgment. In modern family politics, tabling insults and imposing transparent, enforceable metrics are how you replace theatrics with governance. During custody disputes or heated divorce negotiations where exes trade barbed comments in group chats, Machiavelli's modern method would be surgical silence in public and decisive action in private. He would avoid public statements entirely, letting the other parent's venomous messages age into evidence of instability. He would document calmly, file the necessary motions, and show up to mediation with a disciplined proposal that centers the child's routine and well-being. He would use the other parent's insults to demonstrate unreliability rather than to respond in kind, turning emotional attacks into legal leverage by showing he is the steady, predictable option the court and child need. When a spouse weaponizes guilt, "If you loved me you'd do X," Machiavelli would avoid the trap of emotional justification. He would recognize guilt as a strategic tool, not a valid argument, and respond with boundaries. "I understand you feel that way, here's what I will do and what I will not do." He would deliver that statement once, firmly, and then act accordingly. The repeated, performative guilt trips lose power because they no longer produce the desired concessions. In a modern intimate alliance, consistency outperforms rhetoric. Machiavelli would turn guilt into a predictable stimulus that yields predictable noncompliance. In schools where a teacher is insulted by a parent accusing them of bias, Machiavelli would not escalate the conflict on the playground or in a viral post. He would respond with documented professionalism, a concise email summarizing events, copies of graded work, and a single invitation to a calm meeting. He would let the parents' accusatory tone stand on its own until they are forced to either engage productively or reveal themselves as unreasonable. By refusing to be baited into performative apologies or defensive rants, the educator protects their reputation and ensures the dispute becomes about evidence and policy rather than personality, when a child is mocked by peers for a failure. The Machiavellian parent doesn't lecture about feelings, they methodically teach competence. They schedule an extra practice session, arrange a small, staged environment for the child to succeed, and then expose that success publicly in a low-key way, a short video of progress, a shared achievement in a group chat, a calm announcement to teachers. This is not petty revenge, it's a transfer of power through improved ability. In modern social ecosystems, competence undermines mockery faster than any speech. The insult is countered by upgrade, better skill, better outcomes, better optics. If a child brags destructively to make classmates jealous and an argument follows, Machiavelli would avoid moralizing and instead leverage consequence. He would quietly withdraw access to the stage the child uses to perform, no phone, no social feed, no front row status at family events, until the behavior aligns with agreed norms. The removal is not cruel, it is surgical, an immediate, practical consequence that teaches that status is conditional. In modern upbringing, the lesson is clear: performative superiority is a privilege, not a right, and the silent removal of that privilege teaches humility faster than any lecture. When academic competition creates insults between students, "You only got that grade because of luck," Machiavelli would coach strategic restraint, refuse to argue about luck, and instead design a quantifiable improvement plan. Meet with the teacher, create measurable goals, present proof of progress, and quietly let the grades speak. In the current educational climate where every comment can go viral, the best response is structural: show that effort produces results. The rival's taunt evaporates when replaced with consistent, visible evidence of skill increase. In classrooms where teachers are undermined by students' disrespect, Machiavelli would build systems that make insults costly. He would create public, predictable consequences for disruptions and then enforce them without spectacle. When a student insults, the teacher pauses the lesson, applies the rule, and moves on. There is no dramatic showdown because the structure does the work. Reputation is enforced by predictable mechanics, and the teacher's authority is restored without emotional exchange. Modern schooling needs less moralizing and more institutional consistency. That's the Machiavellian fix. When a coworker sends a passive-aggressive email implying incompetence, Machiavelli's modern maneuver would be to transform the accusation into a task. He would respond with a short, unemotional clarification email: "Thanks for the note. To fix this, I will do X by Y. Please confirm." By reframing insult into work, he disarms the drama and forces the attacker into collaboration or exposure. The workplace reward structure values output over rhetoric, and by pivoting to deliverables, you expose complainants as noisemakers rather than as contributors. In office politics where gossip is the weapon, Machiavelli would not join the rumor mill or publicly defend himself, he would create allies silently. He would ensure key stakeholders see his competence through deliverables and strategic, private briefings. When someone whispers an insult to undermine him, those whispers bounce off because the people who matter already know the truth. Modern professional power is social proof plus performance. The silent accumulation of both outmaneuvers loud accusations every time. When a manager is berated by a subordinate in a meeting, Machiavelli would not explode or preen. He would use the meeting structure to constrain the attack, ask one clarifying question that exposes emotional overreach. Then redirect to the agenda item and assign a concrete task. The subordinate's moment of outrage collapses under procedural weight. By refusing the personal fight and converting chaos back into process, the manager reasserts authority without lowering themselves to the same level of petty insult. During performance reviews, when an employee verbally attacks company policy as unfair, Machiavelli would convert the insult into a bargaining chip. If your problem is fairness, present a written proposal by Friday outlining alternatives and the metrics to evaluate them. That single invitation channels anger into constructive policy work. The employee either produces a reasoned plan, which elevates them, or fails and becomes visible as a critic, not a contributor. In modern organizations, this tactic separates constructive dissent from empty outrage. When a business partner publicly humiliates you during negotiations, Machiavelli would not match humiliations, he would quietly step back and call for a pause. He would follow that with a private meeting where he lays out the numbers and the preferred structure without emotion. If the partner continues public posturing, he would escalate procedurally, involve legal counsel, set formal meetings with minutes, and make every interaction documented. The goal is to turn performative aggression into paperwork. In modern deals, the party who transforms drama into documentation controls the narrative and the options. If a rival CEO insults your firm in a press interview, Machiavelli would not respond with counterattacks or statements that mirror the temperature. He would instead present an irrefutable demonstration of strength, a timely product launch, a performance report, or a client endorsement. He would let tangible success do the talking. The insult becomes background noise when overshadowed by excellence. In today's market, proof trumps protest. Machiavelli would weaponize operational competence against rhetorical blows. When a negotiator uses personal slights to rattle you at the bargaining table, Machiavelli's modern play would be to alter the frame immediately. He would re-specify the negotiation metrics to objective standards, timelines, deliverables, penalties, and insist that the conversation stick to those metrics. Personal jabs become irrelevant when the contract is filled with clauses and deadlines. In modern business, turning personality battles into contractual language locks outcomes and defeats theatrics. In startup pitch rooms, when an investor casually insults a founder's strategy, Machiavelli would advise the founder not to defend their ego but to demonstrate runway, traction, and user metrics in cold hard numbers. He would train founders to have a 2-minute, emotionless dossier that anticipates every cheap shot and answers it with data. The investor's insult is exposed as a distraction, the numbers reveal competence and reduce the insult to noise. Today's investment world rewards resilience backed by metrics, not heated rebuttals. When a vendor tries to bait you with low blows to get better terms, Machiavelli would quietly walk away or create an alternative. He would not beg for respect or make moral arguments, he would source another vendor, or set up bidding that exposes the aggressor's bluff. In modern commerce, leverage is rarely ethical high ground, it's alternatives. Silence plus movement is the strongest reply. You don't answer the insult, you replace it with options the other party can't control. When a competitor launches a smear campaign, Machiavelli would not counter-smear, he would do the opposite, hyper-transparency. Release audited numbers, customer testimonials, and open channels for feedback. The smear loses oxygen in the light of facts. While others play the outrage game, he refines processes and presents proof. In our current era of rapid information, the combination of clarity and speed neutralizes slander more effectively than matched venom. When a team member undermines your authority in front of clients, Machiavelli would respond with a single, private correction and a public demonstration of competence. He would never raise his voice to match theirs. Instead, he would follow up the meeting with an email summarizing the decisions and responsibilities, CCNG the client and leadership. The underminer's attempt to shift perception is reversed by official communication that cements the narrative. In modern professionalism, written records paired with calm leadership reset reputations faster than any heated confrontation. When a vendor tries to bait you with low blows to get better terms, Machiavelli would quietly walk away or create an alternative. He would not beg for respect or make moral arguments, he would source another vendor, or set up bidding that exposes the aggressor's bluff. In modern commerce, leverage is rarely ethical high ground, it's alternatives. Silence plus movement is the strongest reply. You don't answer the insult, you replace it with options the other party can't control. When a competitor launches a smear campaign, Machiavelli would not counter-smear, he would do the opposite, hyper-transparency. Release audited numbers, customer testimonials, and open channels for feedback. The smear loses oxygen in the light of facts. While others play the outrage game, he refines processes and presents proof. In our current era of rapid information, the combination of clarity and speed neutralizes slander more effectively than matched venom. When a team member undermines your authority in front of clients, Machiavelli would respond with a single, private correction and a public demonstration of competence. He would never raise his voice to match theirs. Instead, he would follow up the meeting with an email summarizing the decisions and responsibilities, CCNG the client and leadership. The underminer's attempt to shift perception is reversed by official communication that cements the narrative. In modern professionalism, written records paired with calm leadership reset reputations faster than any heated confrontation. If you want the final truth, Machiavelli in our time would treat insults as instruments to be neutralized, not as wounds to be avenged. He would keep his face like a mask, his actions like reports, and his responses like contracts. Insults are converted into data, into documented consequences, into public silence that speaks louder than any retort. He would prefer the slow, irreversible climb of reputation over the quick satisfaction of retaliation. He would prefer to win the chessboard rather than the argument. If you take one brutal, modern lesson from this, do not give the stage to people trying to provoke you. Silence plus structure plus measurable action is your most ruthless and reliable response. Don't argue in the theater of emotion, legislate in the architecture of systems. If you want to see this in your life, subscribe, like, and share, because learning to wield silence is a practice, and the people who practice together sharpen each other into a force that others will either follow or fear.